There's a version of me I think about often. The younger me, the quieter me, the me who didn't have the language, the tools, or the confidence I have now. The me who was just trying to make sense of a world that felt too loud, too heavy, too demanding. And sometimes I wish I could sit with him, not to fix him, not to rush him, but to tell him the story he didn't know he was living. And today is that story. So, how we always say, if I could just go back and tell my younger self this, if I could just sit across from my younger self, y'all, I wouldn't start with advice. I wouldn't start with warnings. I wouldn't start with, you should have known better. Honestly, if I was looking at my younger self, if I was looking at younger Christian, I would tell him, I'm proud of you. Because he didn't hear that enough. He didn't know that he deserved it. Because he thought survival was the only thing he was good at. And yes, he heard I'm proud of you from his mom. Of course, my mom always told me she was proud of me. My grandma always told me she was proud of me. They always told me they were proud of me. But outside of them, though, I'll tell him, you're doing the best you can with what you have. And that's enough. I tell him the truth nobody said out loud. You're not too sensitive. You're not too much. You're not hard to love. You're not imagining the things that hurt you. You're not responsible for fixing what other people broke. And you're not responsible for fixing what broke other people. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to want more. Then the one thing that would really kind of, I don't know, be like a tearjerker. It would always be like, I'm trying to find the right words. Because I wrote it down, but I don't know that I want to say it that way or whatever. But you not having a father was never a reflection of your worth. Because younger me thought that absence meant something about him. It thought that I wasn't enough. I thought that I had to grow up faster. I thought I had to be stronger, be perfect, be everything. I thought I had to be the grown-up person. I thought I had to be the grown-up. I thought I had to be the adult because he wasn't there. But I had to realize it is not a reflection of my worth, and it's not a reflection of your worth. He didn't know that a parent's absence is about them, not the child they left behind. I'd acknowledge the weight he carried, the expectations, the silence, the pressure to be strong, the fear of disappointing people, the confusion of trying to grow up while still trying to understand himself, the ache of watching other kids have what he didn't have. Because I know, yes, he used to get jealous of watching other kids have their dads. They could go to the park. He'll see some of the kids playing with their dad, throwing a football around. All he had was his mom. That's all he had. And even though him and his mom, we're tight. I'm talking about my younger self now. That I'm thinking about him. Thinking about my younger self. And when I think about my younger self, I always get emotional because certain things, when I look at old photos and everything, all I see is a boy who didn't even know what the world was going to be like. I always think about how innocent he was at that age. How, okay, it's gonna be okay. He ain't really, he doesn't really he doesn't know what's going to happen and everything. When I look at photos of my younger self, I always get emotional, but then I always get proud. I don't know why. I tell him that none of that was your fault, and I mean it, because he blamed himself for things he didn't cause. He apologized for things he didn't break. He carried burdens that were never his to hold, especially the burden of trying to fill a father-shaped gap with perfection. Then I tell him about the future, not the details, just the truth. You've become someone you're proud of. You learn how to love yourself. You learn how to choose yourself. You learn how to speak up. You learn how to heal. You learn how to rest. You learn how to stop shrinking. You learn how to stop apologizing for existing. And I'll add, you become the man you needed, even without the man you didn't have. Because younger me didn't know he'd grow up into someone whole, someone grounded, someone capable of giving himself the love he once waited for. There's a part he wouldn't believe, but I say it anyway. I would, because that's how I am. I'm just going to say it anyway. You're not defined by what hurt you. You're not trapped in the story you were born into. You're allowed to rewrite the script. You're allowed to become someone new. Younger me thought struggle was destiny. He thought pain was personality. He thought survival was identity. He thought a missing father meant a missing future. He didn't know there was more. I'll tell myself, you deserved gentleness. You deserved patience. You deserved protection. You deserved honesty. You deserved people who didn't make you earn their love. You deserved a father who showed up, and his absence doesn't make you less deserving. I'll tell him, you get that one day, starting with yourself, because the love he was searching for in other people, he eventually learns to love himself and give it to himself. Then I'll tell him the real story, the one he didn't know he was in. You're not breaking, you're becoming. You're not lost, you're learning. You're not behind, you're building. You're not failing, you're forming. You're not weak, you're waking up. I'll tell him that every moment he thought was the end was... Okay, hold on. I keep getting emotional every time I'm reading this. Reading everything from my notebook. I tell him that every moment he thought was the end was actually the beginning of something he couldn't see yet. If I could hand him a letter, it would say, you grow into someone strong, soft, honest, and whole. You learn how to breathe again. You learn how to trust again. You learn how to love again, starting with yourself. And one day you'll look back and realize you were never broken. You were becoming. And I add, you didn't need your father to become a man. You became one anyway. The story I want to tell my younger self is simple. You were worthy then. You're worthy now. And you'll always be worthy.